going down right here. Mighty Media, TV, GFN Global, TV Networks. We right here with the Empress Hour, live with my main girl, Shonda M. Parks, the Empress. What's going on? Put some respect on that name. What's happening, baby?
Yeah, that's right, Wayne. Say it again.
Put some respect on that name. And she got a nobleman with a noble ward.
Yes, right. I know. Empress and Noble. How about that?
No doubt about it.
Yes. Well, good to see you, Wayne. Thank you so very kindly. Greetings of peace, everyone. Welcome to the Empress Hour. I am your host, Shonda M. Parks, broadcasting live from GFN Global TV in affiliation with the Mighty Media TV. High gratitude for tuning in and thank you for your support. Keep those cash apps coming. Don't slow down. You know, now you can buy stars for me. So get those stars going. You know what I'm saying? Support alternative media. It is necessary. And tonight we have a wonderful guest who we're going to talk about some of that. So please like and share. Follow me here on social media at shondamparks.me, and you can support us with your offerings. So absolutely, we need your help, okay? So I just want to say to our guest tonight, high gratitude and welcome to the Empress Hour. And thank you for gracing us here with your presence. And if you could, please, I want to share a little bit about what you've shared with me about yourself. And then, of course, I know I'm just going to scratch the scratch, but you can add to it.
All right, I like that.
All right, so tonight, our guest, Noble Ward, is a longtime comic and also he's a longtime comic fan and a creator. And he has worked for Kid Comics, which it's a huge deal. Wow. As I researched that, I was like, wow. So that is awesome. Also, Bad Bug Comics, Amarat Entertainment, and he has consulted on many, many different types of publishing and comics. But one of the things that I was very impressed with, what I saw with my own eyes as being Facebook friends, is that he was a guest panelist this year in San Diego. And I had no idea that the comics was an extraordinary world. So I'm delighted to have such an innovator with us tonight. He is also a writer. And that is extremely powerful right there. You know, we like to talk to people with diverse backgrounds that are bringing something that is unique. And I'm telling you, he is a heck of an innovator. So we're going to hear that tonight. So, and I'm very excited as a fellow podcaster. He has a wonderful podcast, and it's called Noble Relating, the podcast of the new paradigm. And man, that name, the new paradigm, I really appreciate that. So welcome. Please.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Absolutely. So of course I didn't, I just scratched the scratch, so please tell us about yourself and also tell people how they can contact you and follow you in your process and in your social media.
All my social medias are Noble Relating. So you can find me on Instagram at Noble Relating. You can find me on my website, Noble Relating. And I basically do, you talked a lot about my comments, but my two main facets or two main pillars of who I am as a person are comments and coaching, because I do relationship coaching as well. And people can find me pretty much anywhere, and also on Facebook at Noble Ward on Facebook.
Well, that is so awesome. Now, also, you can go on my Facebook page and go down in the link, and you'll see that I have a link there for his podcast. So I definitely want you to support what he has going right now, because as podcasters, and we've talked about that many times here on the Empress Hour, it is critical that we as new media get your support And we can grow in content and we can grow in numbers, but we do need your support. So, keep it going. Again, like and share what you're hearing tonight. Noble, I just want to say there is two major parts to this conversation tonight that I'd like to help navigate with you.
Okay.
And the two parts to that conversation is, number one, your role as a podcaster, bringing new content. And of course, now we know that you are setting a new paradigm. So we're going to talk about that. And the second part of that is the base details of polyamory. So let's jump right into it. Tell us about your podcast and how you got started with podcasting.
Well, I got started with podcasting after I listened to one of my girlfriends, King K. Stevens. She did a podcast. She does podcasts all the time. And this one particular podcast she did had an ad in front of it about for a service where you could create your own podcast and how easy it was. And after hearing it, I was just like, you know what? Like, why not give it a try? Because what I really wanted to do was I wanted a way to express and get my family to understand polyamory and what I was about. To me, really, it was started out just being a way for my mom to like, look, Mom, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. No, I'm not lying to any of the women I'm with. I have several of my girlfriends and partners on the podcast. Like, they all care about me. Like, it was kind of like, hey, Mom, look, like I'm doing a good thing here. And I want to, and by extension, I wanted my family to really like kind of understand that too. And I just kind of found that I really liked it, that I really enjoyed it. I didn't think my voice was terrible, so I felt like, it was something I really wanted to do, and I just kind of kept it moving. That's how I got into it.
Yes, well, I'm very proud of you. I have had the opportunity to listen to a couple of your broadcasts and very impressed. I appreciate really in-depth conversation, and most of the conversations are in-depth. Matter of fact, I'm saying most, but the two that I listen to, and I'm not saying that I will not go back. I'm going to go back and listen to more. Because it's essential that we begin to understand how we are relating to one another. And so here's one of the beliefs that I have about podcasting. I think that the podcasting is necessary because we have received so much misinformation about how we should govern our lives. Mm-hmm. And so the Empress Hour is just bent on bringing unique knowledge and new knowledge to help people discover something new through dialogue and conversation. And you may or may not agree, that's okay, but it's about turning the stones. There has to be all these stones that have been given to us must be turned over. And so as podcasters, we have the opportunity to do that. Do you feel somewhat, now responsible for bringing valuable information to your podcast?
Responsible? In a way, I would say I do, because I do believe that I named it that for a reason. The podcast is a new paradigm, because I feel like the philosophy that I was taught and that I learned really changed my life and really saved my life. And I feel like it's information that can benefit anybody, whether you're polyamorous, monogamous, polyandrous, or whatever, asexual. It doesn't really matter what your relationship style is. I feel like the information that I was fortunate to receive can really benefit and help anybody. And I'm a big proponent for Progressive Love Academy, for the things I learned there from the people there. Those are people there I'm going to have with me for the rest of my life,
Yes.
So in terms of, do I feel responsible? I do, in a way. Feel like I want to keep pushing the envelope forward and find my unique voice and my brand or my niche of how I want to share my gift with the world, share what I'm capable of to the world.
Yeah, and and as a podcaster, that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time to develop. You have to go through quite a bit to really find exactly what you want to do. And sometimes you just have to roll through the process. You're going to change, but that's everything. You can't continue to do everything the exact same way. So I'm glad to have you as a podcaster. And again, thank you for gracing us here, because we know that the information that we bring about how we relate to one another is critical,
Mm.
and it lies in the power of communication. And
Mm.
but before I go any further, I do also want to acknowledge Progressive Academy, because they have been some of the forerunners in the industry of polyamory. And Kenya K. Stevens she is an awesome sister. I have great admiration for her. I haven't had the opportunity to meet her personally. I have met her husband personally, and that was an awesome meeting to meet him. So they have bought a lot of valuable information. Anybody can find their information there on social media. So I also want to just stop and give them some acknowledgement, as you had talked about them earlier, for being blazing, trailblazers in this industry, and also talking about this. So, well, with that in mind, why don't we jump kind of, if you have some more things that you would like to add about being a podcaster, because being a podcaster, I mean, we open ourselves up to the entire world. Everything that we say, is open, and I've seen podcasters come and go. I've seen some be defamed, deplatformed, shamed, all of that, as a podcaster. So it is a critical business, and it's a delicate business, and it can turn at any moment. So if you have anything else to say about us as podcasters, please go right ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just think that it's important. I don't think that it's really made for everybody. I think I've had a lot of people ask me about podcasting who, were interested, who never got started. I have people who got started who never did more than 2 episodes. It takes a lot to be a tried and true, podcaster that, really sticks with it and grows it. But I think people who, really have something to say, it's worthwhile. It's worth doing.
Yeah. And then a lot of people think, oh, you get into podcasting and you can get rich, podcasting because they've heard about Joe Rogan. And if you're a podcaster and if you've inquired about, any of the other podcasts, it's like, if you're not monetizing your show, then blah, 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 so it's a lot of hype in the industry, but it is a very good industry, and it does take a lot of work. So I commend you for stepping into this industry.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome. So, all right. So let's talk about the good stuff too. This is one of my favorite topics, by the way.
Okay.
I find this to be a very stimulating topic. I love talking about relationships because, after all, we're all in one kind of a situation or another, and we need to understand how to communicate with one another. So why don't you tell us, what is polyamory?
Polyamory, basically, we break it down. Poly means many, amory means love. So just basically is just having multiple loves in your life. In the grand scheme of things, really everybody's polyamorous. If you love your mom and your dad, you're polyamorous. So if you have multiple siblings and you love them all, that's polyamory. So in a nutshell, that's really all it means, is having the capability to love multiple people.
So simple, but yet most people think of it as such a complex way to live our lives. And I have females who, when I talk to them about living a poly life, because I use the word poly, but I'm a person who is also deeply into etymology. And so the etymology that takes me back with poly takes me back to Greek. And I think that we have to use some of these words to describe what we're, trying to do because we haven't either recreated our language or created another language, or can we speak our own language? So, we're being forced to use these type of words, and not that the word is bad, but I'm saying that it's not exactly what it used to be, because this word poly in itself has a date and time of which it came into existence. So we used to commune. It was just a communal, you know what I'm saying? There was, we had tribes, we had nations of people that functioned with one another. So the lifestyle isn't new, but the concept is new to people in these days and times, because we've been, basically so many things has gotten in our way about really relating to one another. And so you briefly mentioned, other names for poly. Can you tell us a few more? Like, I know that, polygamy or polygamy, and is there a distinction?
Yeah, there's polyandry. For example, polyandry is where you basically have one woman who is in a relationship with multiple men. Polygamy, where you may have what most people are familiar with, where you have one man who has multiple women. And there's different ways to set all those things up in terms of like how you really want your individual relationships to be. In my opinion, I think most people kind of get confused and feel some type of way about the different lifestyles and options, because they have a lot of attachments to the emotion of sex. Everybody is familiar and okay with loving multiple people, but when you attach the emotion of sex with multiple people, people tend to get a little confused, in my opinion.
Why do you think that is the case?
Well, I think that's the case mainly because of how things in the West, particularly, and how European models were set up for us here in terms of capitalism, hundreds of years ago, for land ownership, being able to pass down land from father to son or daughter, and keeping things in the family. They didn't have things that we have now, like DNA testing, or knowing how to get pregnant, or being able to make sure that the person you want to get pregnant by is the person you actually get pregnant by, and knowing that the baby is yours. So they had to do things to control women's sexuality, because that was the only way for men to really guarantee that the child that the woman brought forth would be his. Women always know who their babies are. Men didn't.
Yes, they have an old saying, mama's baby, papa's maybe.
Right. And
yeah.
And I believe that because of those etymologies, what they did was they implanted that so much into our subconscious by repeating it, by religion, that it's hard for people to see a different way, or to see a different way to connect intimately, or to connect with multiple people. So it gets a little fixed on one methodology of going about a relationship. This doesn't really fit in the modern world.
And that's why I say that we need to turn over the stones, because the model of the relationship that has been given to us, that has been passed on over the last 500 years, if you weigh that to the conditions that we find ourselves in, then you would have to realize that it has a failing grade.
Yes.
And as you said, many people are already in poly relationships, or they have other partners. But what is most regretful, and you could please speak about this, is the lack of trust, the lack of transparency, and the lack of truth. Please talk to us about that.
Well, that's a major thing. If you really look at, just like you were saying, look at relationships in general, at least, and I know in my lifetime over the past 100 years, it's very rare that you see people, men who want to have just one woman. Historically, even women who really just want to have one man. Most women, I think, would think if they really could have their way, would like to have more than one partner. But they can't do that because of how every word you can think of, whore or all the sexually explicit words all pertain
Yes.
to women. So it's kind of been like beat out of them to for not to be acceptable. And even myself with my own father, my dad was kind of a Rolling Stone back in the '80s, dark skin and Jerry curl. He was getting it in. And I think with the lack of acceptability for our own sexuality and our own desires to have multiple loves, we tend to just lie about it. Like you were saying, if you look at the stats, a lot of marriages end up in divorce, and mostly those are either because of cheating or finances. Lots of people, if you really talk to them, most people would say they were in a relationship and they've cheated before, and it's really sad to me that people haven't been exposed to another way of going about things and going about the relationships other than having to hurt people or lie to people or do these behind each other's back. When I heard polyamory when I was 30, it completely blew my mind. I never had a concept of what that was at all.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I've been exposed to, that type of lifestyle all of my life because my grandfather had another family. My mother was the other family. And so it was something that was always familiar to me in my life. And my mother was very open relating in her relationships. And I found that I did that quite a bit in my life, except for the time that I was married. So like 25 years almost, I'm exclusive with one man, even though I did not require him to be exclusive. But it was an unspoken requirement because we were Muslims. So it was an unspoken requirement that I, be exclusive to him. And I did obey until the end. And the bad girls start coming back out again.
Right. Did you feel fulfilled when you were doing that? When you were like being exclusive for that period of time? Were you happy or?
I was satisfied with him as an individual to a very high extent, but I was very displeased to the fact that I saw many different people that I actually wanted to be involved with. So it was kind of, that there were men who I did business with that I found to be very attractive, and they also found the same thing with me. But because I had already made a commitment to be in the type of relationship that I was in, I honored it as long as I could. And what just took me to the brink of not honoring it was feeling unfulfilled, not having the proper time that I needed, not being caressed and things that I thought was necessary for me. They're not only thought, but I felt that way, that I was unfulfilled. And this is happening. This is happening in society. But my regret, this is one of my greatest regrets, is that I did not have the wherewithal within myself to communicate that I wanted to be in an open relationship. And, and so now that I have this way of life about myself, it is absolutely critical. I'm very upfront with it. And I try not to be involved with people who do not want to be open relating to their partners. And I use that word, I try not to, because I already was involved with a guy, and me and him still, are kicking around a little bit, And on my side, honestly, I still feel a guilt because, like, he's lying, I'm honest, and I was like, damn, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I understand. Do you think that your ex would have been would have been okay with you doing that if you would have had the wherewithal to bring it to him, like you were saying? Because I know in my experience, I try to help men in my coaching practice too, but I feel like men have especially the generation above me, like the generation X or whatnot, they have a really hard time with these concepts.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do not think that my husband would have never been open to that, because when we separated, I started to live my life, then I was called some of those things that you talked about earlier, a whore, a infidel, I was, shirk, I was a sinner, I was deemed all of those things. So no, not at all. He would not have been open to it at all. And based on his behavior that he had, once I had, we separated and I began to live the type of lifestyle that I desired for myself. Mm-hmm. And that really is a pity. But I agree that most men, don't want to have their female, but I hear from females too. Like one of the ladies that I posted this New York. As a matter of fact, New York did. I think it was in my story. Well, they went ahead lawfully. This lady won a lawsuit about being in a poly relationship, that she could keep the apartment in New York. And but the young lady who sent it to me, I was excited. I was like, oh, wow, that's great. Thank you for this article. And I asked her, I said, are you poly? She was like, no, I don't like to share my love. And I understand that. I do understand that. But we're sharing love anyway. Yeah. Everybody shares love.
All the time.
So, well, tell us what kind of rules of engagement or what kind of course of action that we should put in place, boundaries for ourselves to move into a relationship, a poly relationship.
There's no real set way of doing it. It's really about doing really what works best for you as an individual. For me, personally, when I became poly, I did it in a sense to where my cup was like kind of emptied out. I had a near-death experience. I wasn't satisfied with what the philosophy that I grew up with and how it was working for me. I was raised, Christians, Southern Baptist, boy from West Virginia, and when I got into the philosophy from PLA, Universal Love Academy, and really started to understand it, like I kind of really got to the sense where I didn't really have too many boundaries other than just honesty. I didn't really care who you were with or what your thing was. You really need to know what you as an individual need to feel loved. So really, as long as I felt like the woman I with loved and cared about me, it didn't really matter what she did outside of that feeling that I got. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I would encourage people to first know what it is that you need to feel loved, and present that to your partner to make sure that they can do that for you. That they can fulfill that need. And outside of that, do you need more, or what are you comfortable with, or where do you trust, or where do you don't? And boundaries and everything kind of solidify, but people, in my experience, people have a hard time with boundaries anyway. As soon as you tell somebody you don't want them doing something, they're going to want to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That is some psychological thing that shows up. And I find that in the realm of engagement, the number one thing that I really harp on is communication.
100%. Yeah.
And communication, that is such a powerful word, because even when you look at the word, it's commune in action. Mm-hmm. And so when we have that kind of connection with someone, even that commune, so you can't commune just only by yourself. Of course, you should communicate with yourself. As you were saying, what do you want for yourself? Or how do you like to be loved? Mm-hmm. Some people don't know that. They haven't asked the questions of themselves. And that's one thing that I found is that people don't ask a lot of questions. So, what are some of the questions that you present to people when you first meet them? And do you let them know right off the rip that you live a poly lifestyle?
Oh, 100%. I'm a firm believer in not wasting anybody's time. I think, in terms of for women especially, the worst thing you could do is waste their time in a relationship. Um, from my experience, I think most women, if they're cheated on or something like that, they're not as mad about the other woman or all of that. The main thing that they really care about is the fact that you wasted their time in a relationship and they thought it was one thing and they found out that it's something else. So I'm always very clear with anybody who I talk to that, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm about. And it's really benefited me a lot in the long run by doing that, once I finally got comfortable with it. And I also learned I don't really ask too many questions personally, because people will either ask me a question once I tell them I'm poly, or they'll just get it and we'll just vibe out and kind of flow from there. Especially now that I've gotten comfortable with actually having the conversation. The first couple of years, my pitch was off and I would kind of say things in a certain way, like like it was kind of awkward, and I wasn't too good with I wasn't too comfortable with it personally, inwardly. Now I just be like, yeah, I'm poly, this is what I do. I got a couple girlfriends, and they'll either be like, oh, okay, and not want to talk to me anymore, or they'll ask me questions. So it's like how I want to do things.
Yeah, that's really interesting, from a man's perspective, because as a female, when I introduce people and I tell them that I'm poly, I get all of the jokes, I get everything, about, they think that it's all about sex.
Yeah.
And, and that I got all of these husbands. And I don't have a lot of husbands. I really don't. But I do have a lot of guy friends. Nice. So I'm mostly solo. So I, okay. I operate however I feel comfortable.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I technically have been solo poly for. I'm not solo poly anymore. I do have a primary partner now. But yeah, I think the solo poly lifestyle is really good for men, especially men under like 30. If they can really just be honest about it and do it in a right way, I think it really benefits them a lot, because it gives them time to get their stuff together, relate to women in an honest, open way, until they're ready to step into a more of a leader type, kingship type position.
Yeah, and of course we need that, because we need honesty. Helps us with manhood. It helps us with motherhood, sisterhood. It helps us with building strong families. And that is one of the great advantages of being in an open related relationship, is because you're basically challenging yourself and your partners to be honest.
Oh yeah.
To be open and honest. But, in this society, people still tend to find that very difficult, even in a poly relationship. And I think that they find that difficult because we are in a society that dominantly don't practice in truth, which is why I say, as podcasters, we got to bring the truth out. We need to turn those stones over.
Right. Even for me, like, I know the first couple of years when I was learning to be poly and trying to do it, it was a test multiple times trying to be honest with my partners, especially when things start to get serious. It's easy when things are light and casual, but when things start to get serious, you start trying to move in with people or really try to do something like that has some weight to it. The honesty, it can be a test, because you don't really know how to handle the storms. You don't know how to handle people's reactions to the truth. And if it wasn't for, I'll say it again, Progressive Love Academy and the things I learned there, I don't know how I will be able to manage all of these emotions and things that come up when you're having honest, real conversations.
Yes, and the emotions are going to come up.
Yes.
They're going to fester themselves, because we are electrical beings that have emotional centers. So we're not going to be able to get away from the emotion. But if we have a course of action or a protocol or rules of engagement that we make for one ourselves and one another, I think that we could flow better in a relationship. So, for example, a person I ask people, how do they want to show up? I want to know, because how you feel more comfortable about showing up in my life, because I know how I can show up in your life. So and people need to know that. And what I mean by that is that you might not want to know the details of my sexual expedition or whatever that I have. You might be too sensitive about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On the other hand, me, I'll be all up there. Now, what did you say y'all did? And you put your leg where?
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. I'm very open. I'm not really jealous or intimidated by much. One of the things that really helped me personally is when I understood that nobody was better than me. You individually as a person may have a more intense connection with somebody. You may have better chemistry with somebody sexually, but that doesn't make them better than I am. And once I came to that realization, it was really easy for me to hear whatever any of my partners are doing or going about. It's like, okay, all right. But sometimes they tell me too much. I'm like, okay, it's a little bit, I need to know all that, but but yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with hearing whatever.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't know. I'm very inquisitive about different things. When it comes to a relationship, and I know some people are very uncomfortable to that. But I also think that perhaps come from people's concept of owning one another. And that is a big deal. So speak about that. How is it that you navigate through that aspect, especially now that you have someone that is your primary partner, and that so you all nest together, so you're sharing basically everything now. So speak to that, please.
For me personally, it really just comes down to the fact of I believe in equality. For me, I don't want nobody owning me. I don't want nobody telling me where I can and can't go or who I can or can't relate with. And I feel like in order for me to really love a woman, I have to give her the same freedom that I want for myself. One thing I think that's kind of hard for a lot of men today is I think a lot of men tend to love women like they would love a puppy. In terms of, I do it's like they love them like I'll take care of you, like I'll feed you, I'll house you, I'll take care of you when you're sick, but you can't sleep in the bed with me like I do, because you're a puppy. You can't eat the same table I do because you're a puppy. Like they have these certain caveats on things that well, I can do this because I'm a person, but you can't do this because you're a puppy or because you're a woman. And I just have a really hard time with that. So I feel like if I can do it, if I'm going to be doing it or going out here and be with other women, I'm going to be with other women. So I need women to be comfortable enough to want to be with me. So I don't see how I could come off in my head and think that if my primary woman is being intimate with another man, that she's less of a woman for doing so. Then what does that mean I feel about these other women that I'm being with? Do I not respect these women that I'm having sex with because I'm with multiple ones of them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to me that's a teaching. You spoke earlier about your religious background. I also find that a lot of people who have now looked at poly as a lifestyle for them, they have a different perspective about religion. They don't necessarily follow religion as it has been taught to us in terms of theology, or they don't follow it right and exact. They have opened their minds to being able to see things different, because it's a spiritual transition. You
Right.
have to shift your mindset in order to realize that you're not a sinner, you're not going to hell, you
Right.
know.
And you have to understand too, like most religions, Christianity, Islam, those religions are very, very old.
They are.
And they don't really take into account, or there's no way for them to have taken into account the world as it is today, where there are more options, more choices, more ways of doing things safely. I can understand a few thousand years ago why some of these rules and conditions were in place. I can fathom why they would have been, some of these conditions and thoughts would have been put there. But today, I just don't think they really are applicable in their totality. I think that, now again, I grew up Christian Baptist, and I have nothing bad to say about Christianity or any religion really. I think Christianity is a beautiful religion, especially if you get to the core of what I believe the Bible is really trying to tell us. I think people get a little bit too wrapped up in what the Bible says and not what it's trying to tell you. But if you account for things in the modern day, the ways that we can, police ourselves, the ways that we can, control ourselves, and protection that we have against, diseases or unwanted pregnancies, and the way that we can just like love each other, over distances or whatnot. Like it just, and I don't want to say that religion is outdated. I just do think it does need a little bit of an adjustment in terms
Well, see, and that's where here on the Empress Hour, and thank you all for being tuned in with us tonight. My guest tonight is Noble Ward, and our subject of conversation is life of polyamory. And I just want to say that again, here on the Empress Hour, we think that everything has to be questioned. There is no shame in questioning religion. There is no shame in questioning the government, the education, and institutions that have been governing our lives. There is no shame in that, because in order for you to make progress in life, you have to have the proper questions. And so a lot of people, religion has had an outstanding effect upon us all. So it has to be examined, because people live by, that as law. And law is what governs our affairs. So we have to pay attention to it. So that's what I want to say right now. Let's take a look at some of the things, the myths that people say about poly, and just real quickly, as we are coming near our last minutes of being live here. So some people think that having a poly lifestyle is cheating. What do you have to say about that?
You can't cheat, unless it's against the rules. Individuals, two people in a relationship, get to set the rules for the relationship. So, if the rules of the game or the rules of relationship allow for me to do a certain thing by talking to you about it, how could I be cheating if somebody knows what it is I'm doing and they're okay with it? I think people just want to assume that, because you're intimate with more than one person, that you're doing something illicit or bad or mischievous or lascivious or whatever. I don't necessarily think that's the case.
And how about ethical? Is it, some people say, oh, it's not moral, it's an immoral lifestyle.
Morals are nothing but your beliefs. If you go to somebody in the Muslim or whatnot, they may think that you're not being moral by not having your head covered, or like morals are nothing but a system of beliefs that you have the individual that you grow up with and you choose to accept or not. So you really can't put morals on anyone because different religions, different cultures have different morals as it stands.
Yeah, and to add to what you're saying, the biggest thing for me is to have high integrity,
Yes.
and to be forthright with one another. And okay, so here's another one. Females, she's a whore. She's, this female is considered down and trotting, living this lifestyle, but the male is considered a pimp, a player. He got it going on, boy. He got ladies stripping all off of him, baby. Ha! Talk about that.
I think that's a testament to men's fragility, really, or men's sensitivity. Men feel like I feel like it's hard because the definition of what an alpha male is has been misconstrued. I would consider myself an alpha male because I feel like nobody can really challenge me or take away anything that is mine. It doesn't matter how much money you got, how big you are, how much muscles you got, how big your Johnson is. You can't really take a girl away from me who's authentically chosen me. And I can't really be challenged on that. Only person who I'm really competing with is myself. And that's based on how I show up in integrity with the women that I relate to. So, and when it comes to women, like I had somebody tell me a while ago about, he was going off on this, women's, bodies or their, yonis don't react well when you have multiple men and how it falls apart. And I was like, what's the same? I don't understand. I don't understand like the difference between a woman having sex with 30 men and a woman having sex with the same man 30 times. Like, it's not affecting her body any differently. I don't really understand what the deal is. So
yeah, and also in nature, in nature you barely find monogamy in nature,
Yeah.
and this is something that has been deemed on the people, in that we haven't opened ourselves up to multiple partners.
Yeah,
Okay,
those are species to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what should people know about starting a polyamorous lifestyle? What are some of the keys for them to unlock the process?
Well, first you have to be able to be open and honest about it, about why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you want to have a lot more sex, if you're doing it because you really care about more people, you need to know specifically why you are even interested in polyamory in the first place. And then you want to narrow it down by taking a really quick look at your level of emotional intelligence and your level of emotional bandwidth. Because not everybody really has the capability, in my mind, to be in multiple relationships and facilitate what it would take to make multiple people feel fulfilled. So you really need to look at those things in terms of like your emotional bandwidth and your emotional intelligence level before you get started. That would be my suggestion to people.
And how can I open up this conversation with my husband? This is a question that someone asked of me, and so I wanted to bring this question to you. They're open. They have their minds open. They've been married in a relationship for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're interested, but they don't have the mindset of language that they need to, talk to their partner. What are some of the suggestions that you would like to leave with them?
What I would suggest doing for people who want to lead into that, who don't really know how to bring it up, the easiest way is to find some type of video, TV show, something where there is a polyamorous situation going on, and watch that with your partner, and then just simply ask them like how they feel about that. Like what do you think about like that situation? Like have a dialogue about it, and then slowly but surely kind of build up to kind of feel it out to see where they're at. If you like kind of hesitant to just bring it to them outright. If you're confident and you feel good, just bring it to them out. Like, hey, like I've looked at this. I'm thinking about polyamory. Like, what do you think? But if you want to be more subtle, just find a TV show or a website or video.
Yeah.
And ask some questions after that.
Oh, that is such a good idea. I'm real forthright, so
I bet you are.
I'll be like, you know what? Now I am, but I wasn't then. I
Yeah.
wasn't then. When I was married, and even now, I would say that if I had to do it all over again, I would probably build a strong relationship with my husband, and to secure what we have, and to be, uh, confident that we could move through things, but I would, if I had to do all over again, I would be poly. I would be open and honest, and
Yeah.
so I
That's
think
one of the
that's the
reasons I'm
best.
happy. That's one of the reasons I'm happy with my primary partner now because she's very poly, just like I am. She understands philosophy and everything. Came out of the same school of thought, so we just jump right in. We don't really have to do this.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
so awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. We're coming. I want you to tell people how to get in touch with you, and then before you go, I'm going to go down some things that I think that will help people to uplift themselves. So before we go, please once again tell everyone how they can stay in touch with you and support you in what you're doing right now.
Yes, so you can find me on Facebook at Noble Ward. You can find me on Instagram at Noble Relating. I have a website, noblerelating.com, and you can also find me on my podcast that I do on Spotify, which is the Noble Relating, the podcast of the New Paradigm on Spotify.
Right. What a delight to have you here today. Okay, so here we go. Before we get out of here, all right, these are things that I think that people can do to uplift themselves. So number one, I think that people can eliminate self-destructive behavior. What's your opinion?
If I think that's good, but I think first people have to identify self-destructive behavior. A lot of people do it, they don't know it's destructive.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I'd say, okay, so what about, I also say people can eat properly, but not just only eating physical food, but food for the mind, food for the body, and food for the energetic system. What you have to say?
That's very important. I think if you don't know somebody who, if you're not really into that stuff or into food or really good with that, find somebody who is. My
Yeah.
primary partner is really about food and health and stuff, and I thank God for her every day. I'm gonna be really ripped in a few months because of her. I know.
Well, right. That's right in alignment with exercise,
Yes.
get proper rest, walk, and drink water. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's paramount, especially as we get older, we don't want to be bust down and crusted and whatnot. If you want to, especially if you want to be polyamorous, if you want to attract multiple people of the opposite sex to you or the same sex, whatever. But if you just want to attract more love to you, you want to do so by being your best self.
Must be magnetic. Absolutely. And manage stress.
Yes, I don't really get stressed too much, thankfully, but I have a team of people who around me that I can go to and talk to help, even me out when I do get stressed. So.
And how about thinking young, acting young, enjoying life, feeling jubilant?
Oh yeah, that's why I'm a big proponent of my comic books, man. Those things were with me since I was a teenager, 13. And for kid comics, one of the people I worked with, the motto there is "The kid in you never dies." It's very important to stay young and to feel alive and have that youthful energy. That's the thing that's going to propel you forward, I think, in life. Have like a boyish or girlish wonder about yourself.
Absolutely. Practice good hygiene.
Oh, 100%. Need that.
Yes, yes. Toxic free. Get toxic free products.
Yeah.
And how about supplementation?
I think those are important too. I'm taking some things for, I'm 38, so I started taking some things for my prostate, just to make sure I'm good in my 40s, 50s. Fish oil, things like that for my heart. My grandfather passed away from a heart attack. So, I'm very cognizant of like trying to keep, my ticker right. You definitely, if you can, definitely eat right and eat it, but there's nothing wrong with like taking some supplements every once in a while to help out.
And proactive living.
Proactive living? Is there any other way to live? I don't think it lives. What else are you doing?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm going to say that all these points really, if you want to have a good sex life, this is very important.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, a good relationship is that everybody know in the end, you want to make sure that you can have some good
Right.
sex, a good sexual ritual, but you must take care of
Oh yeah.
oneself.
I'll work out as hard as I do, or I try to work out for three reasons. So I can run away if I have to, I can fight if I need to, and I can make love all night when I want to.
Ooh, boy, you better stop.
That's it.
Wow, what an awesome conversation. Well, I have really enjoyed you as a guest tonight. And once again, I want to thank you for gracing me here at the
Of
Empress
course.
Hour. And are there any last words that you have before we end tonight?
No, I just want to say I appreciate you for doing this for me. I'd love to be on again, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and we here at the Empress Hour in connection with the Mighty Media TV Network, GFN Global TV. Also, thank you and thank everyone else for tuning in with us tonight. Please follow me on social media at shondamparks.me. And so you can stay up on what's going on. I got some lot of great things coming up. So until next time, peace and love.
Peace.
Peace.
Mm-mm.